Today we are going to be talking about the directrix and focus of parabolas. In geometry, we learned that a graph of a quadratic function forms a parabola. We learned how to use the formula for a parabola, which is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Remember, a in the equation out here in the front determined whether the parabola opened up or down. It also determined how skinny or wide the parabola was. Now, also in the formula, the h and the k is the vertex of the parabola, and depending on what those numbers are, it will cause the vertex to shift left, right, up, and down. Parabolas are also considered conics. They have a conic equation that involves the focus and directrix. The focus, which is not new to you, you heard this word last year, but we haven't done it yet this year, is a point that is always located inside the parabola. See down here in this example, here's your parabola, the focus is inside of it. Okay, I heard that last year Miss Young taught it as the parabola hugged the focus. Miss McAdams, I think, said the parabola ate the focus. However, you want to remember that the focus is inside the parabola, and the directrix is a line that is outside the parabola. Okay, see the directrix, the line that's outside the parabola? Okay, the focus and directrix are the same distance away from the vertex. So let's talk about what that means. Here's the vertex of the parabola. So the distance from the vertex to the focus is equal to the distance from the vertex to the directrix. That makes sense, right? So the vertex is equal distance from the focus and the directrix. Now, in this first example, our parabola opens up, which means the a in the equation would have been, guys, what would the a value have been because the parabola opens up? Positive. Okay? The focus is above the parabola, because think about it, we said the focus has to be inside. So if your parabola opens up, the focus has to be above it, right? And that means the directrix is below it. Now down here, the parabola opened down because its a value was negative, and so therefore the focus is now below it, because you always have to keep the focus inside and the directrix outside. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to graph a parabola given a focus and directrix, like they're going to give you the focus and give you the directrix, and you're going to graph the parabola. We're also going to write the equation of that parabola, but it's going to be a slightly different formula than we learned in geometry. Okay? So let's go to the next page. Okay, so like I said, the formula that you learned in geometry for the equation of a parabola is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Does that look familiar? Okay, that's the equation of a parabola. Now remember, if you have a positive a value, the parabola opens up. Negative a value, it opens down. The vertex is the h and the k value. Today, we're going to use this formula to use for focus and directrix. Now, what are the similarities and differences between these two formulas? Well, look, we still have x minus h squared, x minus h squared. Up here we have an a. Down here the a has been replaced with 1 over 4p. And what else? What else is different? Right. Instead of plus k, they subtracted it over here to get this formula, y minus k. Okay? Alright, so let's try an example. Graph and write the equation for a parabola that has a focus of 1, 0 and a directrix y equals negative 2. So we're going to start. Okay. So they've given us a focus point and the directrix. So the first thing we're going to do is plot the focus and draw the directrix. Okay, so 1, 0. I just go right 1. Correct? And then I'm going to label it F. And it's important to label it F for focus because in a minute we're going to have another point that's the vertex of the parabola, and you don't want to get those confused. Okay. All I've done so far is label the focus at 1, 0. I plotted the focus. Now I'm going to draw the directrix, which is a horizontal line, y equals -2. Okay, so if I go to the y-axis and I go to -2, -1, -2, that's where I place my directrix, through the y-axis at -2. Okay, now it says count the space between the focus and the directrix. What is the distance between the two? 2 units. The vertex will be directly between the focus and the directrix. So, let me say that again. The vertex of our parabola that we're about to draw is directly between the focus and the directrix. So where do I place my vertex? So what would, okay, but tell me the coordinates. 1, -1. Okay, so my vertex is at 1, -1, right? Because it has to be directly between the focus and the directrix. And since they were 2 units apart, that means the focus to the vertex or the focus to the directrix is 1 unit, right? Okay, let's continue. So now what we have is we have the value of 1, which is the distance from the focus to the vertex, but isn't it also the distance from the directrix to the vertex? That is known as your p-value. What else do we have? By knowing the vertex, what information do we know? What is the vertex? What variables? H and K, good. So we have a p-value now, and we have an H and a K value. And that's all we need to write the equation of the parabola. But first, let's draw in the parabola. Is this parabola going to open up or down? Up, because remember, if the focus is above it, it's going to open up because it eats the focus. The focus is always on the inside of the parabola, and the directrix is always on the outside. Okay, so now we're going to write the equation of that parabola using the information we've obtained. So what is the p-value? 1. What's the vertex? 1, -1. Okay, so now look, here's the equation we're using. So let's do it. Y minus K. Well, what is the K? So what will happen? Y minus -1. Y plus 1 equals 1/4 times the p-value. What is the p-value? 1 times x minus the h value, which is 1 squared. So really, to write the final answer, what's the only thing I have to do? Just multiply the 4 times 1. So it'll end up being y plus 1 equals 1/4, because 4 times 1 is just 4, times x minus 1 squared. And there's your equation for that parabola. Now, you won't have to. You can leave it like this for the test. All of your answer choices are written in this form. But say you wanted to check it. Say you wanted to put this in the graphing calculator and see if your parabola was located in the right place. What could you do quickly to be able to graph this? But right now it's y plus 1. Have we ever typed in y plus 1 equals on the graphing calculator? Couldn't we quickly just move the 1 down here to the end by subtracting it over, and now y equals 1/4 times x minus 1 squared minus 1? All we've done is quickly put it back in the original form, y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Now, you're not going to be expected to do that to find your answer on the test, but if you're wanting to check your graph, that's what you would need to do. Quickly move the 1 over, put in the graph, see if it looks like what you've drawn. Okay? All right, now flip to the next page. Okay, at the top of the next page, it got cut off. All it told you in that top line, though, was the information about the focus and the directrix. So I am about to give you that information. Okay, the focus for this one is -3, +4. And the directrix is y equals -2. Okay, so our job here is to graph the parabola using the given information and then write the equation of that parabola. So I'm going to begin by plotting the focus. How do I plot negative 3/4?
Go over 3, go left 3.
Left 1, 2, 3, up 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember, the first coordinate is your x value, so you go left or right. Your second one is your y value, so you go up or down. Okay, and then I'm going to label it F for focus. That way I don't get it mixed up with the vertex. Okay, now our directrix is located where? No, not our vertex, our directrix. Negative 2. So I go to the y-axis at negative 2, and that's where I draw in my line, my directrix. Okay, now, what is the distance from the focus to the directrix? 6. So if our vertex is directly between them, what will the distance be from the focus to the vertex? 3. You just half it. So I can go to this line or start up there, it doesn't matter, and just go 3 units away. And that's where my vertex will be. Now, what are the coordinates of that vertex?
Negative 3.
Right, negative 3, positive 1. Is my parabola going to open up or down? Up, because remember you have to eat the focus, so you got to open up. The focus is always inside the parabola, and the directrix is always outside. Okay, so now we know that P equals P. P is the distance from the focus to the vertex, or from the vertex to the directrix, 3. What is the vertex? Negative 3, 1. So now we have the information we need to write the equation of this parabola. So y minus k. What is the k? 1. Look, this is your p value. This is your h and k. So y minus k would be y minus 1 equals 1 over 4 times 3, because p is 3, times x minus h. What is h? So that will be a positive 3 squared. Okay, now I'm just going to simplify this denominator. So y minus 1 equals 1 over 12 times x plus 3 squared. Okay, now I'm going to give you a few minutes to go ahead and try this next example by yourself before I go over it. Okay, this time graph and write the equation for a parabola with a focus negative 3, negative 5. So negative 3, negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's my focus. My directrix is at negative 1. Okay, so they kind of skipped the question that they asked in the previous examples. How far away is the focus from the directrix? 4 units. So they skipped that question. They went straight to what is the distance from the focus to the vertex? 2. So the vertex should be right there. Now, which way is this parabola going to open? Down, because the focus is below the vertex. Correct. Okay, so we said 2, and now where is that location of that vertex? Negative 3, negative 3. So now don't we have all the information we need to write the equation? Okay, so y minus the negative 3 would be y plus 3 right, times x minus, correct. Okay, so y plus 3 equals negative 1, 8 times x plus 3 squared. Is that what y'all got? Okay. Yes. Because parabolas are all surrounded. Okay. You can now go to the next page, and you're going to work on those 4 by yourself.